Hello children, I am very glad to reach you all through this video. In this video, we are going to see the first unit prose, Two Gentlemen of Verona by A.J. Cronin. Now let us see the title, Two Gentlemen. Now who is called a gentleman? A honorable person or a honest person is called a gentleman. Here, the author is willing to say about two gentlemen of Verona. Verona is a place situated in Italy. It is situated in the center part of Italy. So here, author A.J. Cronin is willing to explain about two gentlemen of Verona. Now let us see about the author. A.J. Cronin was a Scottish novelist, dramatist and physician, a doctor by training. Cronin was one of the most renowned storytellers of the 20th century. Many of his stories are noted for their narrative skill, deep social conscience, and finely drawn characters. Now let us see the outline of the story. This is a story displayed by two little boys in their actions to save the life of their sister who suffers from tuberculosis of the spine. From the story, we can find out how their actions give a new hope for humanity. Characters of the story are the narrator and his companion Luigi. Luigi is his driver. Two boys named Nicola and Jacopo, they were brothers. And we'll see other two characters later on. Now let us get into the lesson. The narrator and his driver were driving through the foothills of the Alps. Alps is a mountain. Okay. They were driving through the foothills of the Alps. Small boys stopped them on the outskirts of Verona. Outskirts of Verona means before entering into the city, before entering into Verona. Okay, so they were selling wild strawberries. By seeing the shaggy appearance of those two boys, the driver shrugged his shoulders and conveyed his disapproval. He said that you will get better fruits in Verona. But the author bought their big basket and then set off towards town. And before that, they discovered that the boys' names were Nicola, the elder, was 13, and Jacopo, the younger, was nearly 12. Next morning, while coming out of the hotel, the author could watch the boys' shining shoes beside the fountain in the public square, doing brisk business. When the trade slackened, the narrator asked the boys that, I thought you picked fruit for a living. But Nicholas said that we do many things, sir. After that, the narrator saw them frequently. The narrator relied upon them for a pack of American cigarettes or seats for the opera or the name of good restaurant. And during these summer days, under the hot sun, the narrator saw the boys. They shined shoes, sold fruit, hawked newspapers, conducted tourists around the town, and ran errands. One windy night, in a deserted square, the narrator and his driver saw the boys with a bundle of unsold newspapers. They found that these boys were waiting for the last bus from Padua for selling those newspapers. Next morning, the narrator saw the boys shining shoes near the fountain. Something attracted the author towards the boys. So he went and asked the boys what do they do with their money. Because they spend nothing on clothes, they usually eat black bread and figs. He asked the boys whether they are saving the money to emigrate to America, but he said, we have other plans. The narrator asked what plans, but he smiled uncomfortably and said, just plans, sir, in low voice. Then the narrator said that they were leaving on Monday. Is there anything that he could do for them before they leave? Jacopo said that every Sunday they made a visit to Poleta, 30 kilometers from there. Usually they hire bicycles, but the next day he asked that could the narrator take them by car? The narrator agreed. Nicola glared at his brother, but the narrator said that it won't be any trouble. The following afternoon, they drove to the tiny village. The narrator imagined that it would be some humble dwellings, but it was a large roofed villa surrounded by a high stone wall. The boys leaped from the car and asked the narrator to go for a drink to the cafe in the village and disappeared. The narrator was very eager to know about the boys, so he followed them. The narrator saw a trained nurse with a white uniform with steel rimmed spectacles. He asked the nurse about the boys, and that was a hospital. The nurse led the narrator, and he saw the two boys seated near a girl of about 20. The narrator did not like to intrude upon Lucia's and her brother's happy family party, so the author avoided going to Lucia's room. Now we saw the other two characters, the nurse and Lucia. Lucia was the elder sister of Nicola and Jacopo. Now the narrator begged the nurse to tell him everything the nurse knows about those boys. The nurse eagerly explained that their father, a widower, a well-known singer, had been killed in the early part of the war. Shortly, a bomb had destroyed their home and thrown the three children into the streets. Lucia had herself been training as a singer, and they had suffered horribly from near starvation and exposure to the cold winter. Built shelter with their own hands using the broken bricks. Then for 3 years the Germans ruled the city. The boys grew to hate the Germans. The boys joined resistance movement and fought against Germans. When the war was over, they came back to their beloved sister and found that she was suffering from tuberculosis of the spine. They did not give up. They brought their sister to that hospital, and in the 12 months she has made good progress. The nurse said that there is every hope that one day she will walk and sing again. Every week Lucia's brothers had made their payment. The nurse said that they regularly paid the charged fees, but she doesn't know what they do for the money. But whatever it is, she said that they do it well. After listening to the story of these two boys, the narrator waited outside until the boys rejoined him. He drew them back to the city. They sat beside and did not utter a word. The narrator too, for his part, he too did not utter a word, because he knew that they would prefer to feel that they had safely kept their secret. Yet their devotion had touched the narrator deeply. The narrator doesn't want to break their secret, as he doesn't want to break their hope. Hence, the narrator concluded that the war had not broken their spirit. Their selfless action brought a new nobility to human life, gave promise of a greater hope for human society. The boys, in spite of facing so many problems in their they did not lose hope. Their positive approach and determination managed them to give their sister the best they could. They did various jobs but lived a poor life to save money for their sister's treatment and food. They never tried to take anyone's sympathy. Hence, the author says that these two young boys have every quality of the being called the two gentlemen of Verona. Hence, the title was justified. The moral of the story is love, devotion, sacrifice, sincerity, and maturity are common in humanity. Thank you.